Check, check.
Alrighty, I think we'll give another minute or so for everyone to join. But can everyone hear me okay and see my screen? Yeah, great.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, whatever time of day it is.
Hello. Alrighty. Lieutenant Cleveland, are we all set to go, you think?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, perfect. So just to start everything off, I'll start off with a brief introduction for myself. My name is Callie McAndrew, and I am a customer success manager at Udacity. I've been working closely with Lieutenant Cleveland to get this program up and running. And I'm also joined by Sid Raheha, who is our solutions architect and has been working really in tandem with us to tailor the nanodegree experience for the Air Force. So he's our point of contact for everything technical, and he'll be taking us through a deeper dive into what nanodegrees are and what projects look like. So just wanted to introduce him as well. One thing also to note is that this call will be recorded, so you can refer back to it down the line. Lieutenant Cleveland will be distributing that after the call. And the other thing is, feel free to write any questions that you have throughout the presentation in the chat feature, and I will go through them at the end of the presentation. So first, we'll start off just with a little bit of background about why the Air Force is deciding to partner with Udacity. And then we'll give you a little bit of background about what Udacity is, how we began, and what we're really offering. Then we'll dive into the nanodegree experience and, again, giving you a better sense of what it actually looks like. And finally, give you an outline of what you can expect in terms of next steps. So hopefully that all sounds good. And from there, I'll pass it off to Lieutenant Cleveland.
Yeah, thank you, Callie. If you can go on to the next slide. So I'm Lieutenant Cleveland, PM for Digital University. And we're very excited to be here today to kick off our partnership with Udacity. So a little bit of introduction about Digital University. This is a project we've been working on for about a year now. We kicked off towards the end of 2019, actually, with some of the solution centers within the Air Force coming together and trying to figure out how can we change the way the Air Force does training for digital airmen and for our digital skills. So we know that training digital talent is a very difficult thing to do. For us, it's costly. It's difficult to keep those courses up to date because technology moves so fast. So what we did is to look at how does industry do this? How does Google train their workforce in these Fortune 500 companies? And the way they do it is taking advantages of companies like Udacity and their training model. So Digital University has partnered with Udacity and a few other partners to bring industry-leading training to our Air Force completely free. So for active duty, Guard, Reserve, and civilian Air Force members, we want to give access to training from Udacity and other partners completely free. And we want to democratize that training so that at any time, anywhere, you can learn whatever you want. So Digital University is built by Bespin in partnership with the other solution centers in the Air Force and some of the companies you see here on the right, Google, Hypergiant, Omni, Apollo. It's really built by airmen with the help from industry leaders. So it's built by airmen for airmen with help from the best of the best. Next slide, please. So this is kind of the license model in DU. We have 3 different vendors. You can see them here. And the point that we want to make is as we kick off DU, it's important to realize that there's a reason we have 3 different vendors and they're not all the exact same. And that's really the model that we want to aim for in the future is we have a baseline of digital competency that we want to build throughout the Air Force. But then as you grow as an airman in your technical skills, we want to be able to really hone in on a very specialized technical area. So as you go through, we see Udacity as towards the end of the line, you're getting to a very specialized area. Say you want to be a front-end web developer. Through Digital University, you progress, you get acknowledged that we see your skills, and this is something that the Air Force has struggled with. We don't know what kind of digital talent we have. In my short career, there's been multiple times where an airman goes, oh, I can help you out. I have that certification. Like, wow, we didn't even know their own skills that our airmen have. So with Digital University, what we want to do is bring talent and make it visible. And then as you progress through Digital University, we put you through progressively harder and more specialized training with Udacity really being that specialized program. We're going to put you through an interview that's very intense and you're going to get the skills you need to actually be able to be mission effective as soon as you hit the job. Next slide, please. All right, so we all came together, the different solution centers, and figured out that this is the problem, this is how we can solve it. But we needed to prove out that this was actually something that could be effective, and this is something that airmen wanted. So back in, I think it was March or April, we ran a 2-week pilot with one of our partners, one of our other partners, and we wanted to see, is this something that airmen actually want? So we got 50 spots for one of our different partners for 2 weeks, and we ended up filling all 50 slots. And you can see the range there, represented from airmen all the way up to 2-star generals. So this really showed us that this is something that airmen want. This is that signal that airmen need this kind of training, and they will do whatever it takes to get into these slots if we just make it available. Over those 2 weeks, we had over 50 hours of training completed. And that's really what we needed to say, hey, this is where we need to take training in the Air Force in the future. Next slide. And so that brings us to our partnership with Udacity. You can see there we have 31 positions available. This is for Digital University. We have some other slots that are, Callie mentioned, those are for a different organization. So specific to Digital University, we have 31 positions that we can fill in this first cohort. This is a 3 to 6 month program, a very rigorous screening and selection process. This is not something that we're just going to put you in and hope for the best. We want to make sure that our best and brightest are in these positions because these are very difficult, a very difficult program. And we have paths in data science, software development, and artificial intelligence. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that in just a minute. Next slide. So you can see here kind of the rules of engagement. So like I said, the screening process, it doesn't stop once you get into a program. Once you're in that program, we want to make sure that you are progressing and you're getting towards that end goal of finishing and getting your nano degree. So you have to make sure if you get selected, you don't fall behind on project deadlines. You just don't fall more than one project behind. You make sure that you don't have more than 30 days of inactivity. We expect you to be active in the classroom and actually actively engaged in that content. Make sure that your supervisor is very involved. Like I said, this is a very difficult program. And if you're doing it only on your own time, it's going to be very difficult for you to maintain that balance of, I worked an entire day, now I'm going home and I'm going to spend 2-3 hours on this nanodegree. So your supervisor needs to be involved and be aware of the kind of training that you're going through and how intense it is. Next slide. And that's all I have for the Digital University side. We'll kick it over to Udacity to finish it up.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Lieutenant Cleveland. So really setting me up nicely to give you a little bit of an introduction about where Udacity came from and what it looks like today. So we like to start off by giving you a sense of how this company came to be. So on the left, you see our founder, Sebastian Thrun. He is actually the founder of Google X, which is their self-driving car division. And on the right is Peter Norvig, who is the father of artificial intelligence and the author of the widely used artificial intelligence textbook that's probably present in every single college across the country. So what they set out to do is basically bring one of their courses that they were teaching at Stanford at the time online. Their thought process being, let's see what types of individuals sign up, if they're successful, if we're able to teach it online effectively, so on and so forth. So what they found was a really strong story here. So 160,000 learners signed into the classroom. Of those learners, 23,000 passed the exam, and 412 of those learners were actually more proficient in the content than the best Stanford student. So not only that, they saw that from this, they saw that there was a strong demand to learn these technical skills. They were able to do it effectively online. And then also the population of these very capable individuals extends past the classrooms of, very reputable colleges like Stanford. So that's how the idea began. So the company started back in 2011. And as you can tell, Sebastian and Peter are very proficient themselves in this type of technology. So they took this methodology and continued it as they were creating content. So just as Digital University is made by and developed by airmen for airmen, Udacity is built by industry leaders for industry leaders. So one of the main things that our founders wanted to accomplish was to stay relevant in an ever-changing, innovative space, because at the end of the day, they want to make sure that the skills that they're teaching are of the highest caliber that the industry leaders are setting the tone for. So the way that this content is then distributed and packaged is what we call a nanodegree, and that's what we call our courses. So these are 3 to 6 month long learning programs that require around 10 hours per week of learning. So I know that Lieutenant Cleveland has already touched upon this, but this is a very intensive and demanding course where it's not something that you can just watch 5 minutes of video as you're cooking dinner and expect to retain it. So what we really are focused on is developing fluency and mastery to really demonstrate these technical skills. So the way that these courses are formatted, we have modules that are in text form, video form, and it's also being quizzed. You're being quizzed on that information along the way. So you're consuming this content in multiple fashions, and then at the end of each module, you're required to submit a formal project. So this requires you to, again, demonstrate those skills in a real-world context. And we do have human expert reviewers that are going through your project line by line and giving you feedback on not only what you did well, but also what you could do to give the best results in the end. So throughout the entire process, you are supported by the reviewers, by your peers that are also going through the nanodegree with you, and you also have access to other mentors that you can ask any question about a specific concept, about a project, anything that you come into contact with in the classroom. So if there's 3 things that you can take away from hearing about Udacity today is one that, again, it's an immersive curriculum. So you will be required to really be present in the classroom, and also you'll be spending 50% of your time actually doing the work. So it's not just, again, watching a video or two and packing up. It's really putting your hands to the keyboard and demonstrating the skills that you're learning on a day-by-day basis. Second is that it is a supported journey. We really pride ourselves in the mentors that are able to give you support along the way, and the student community that you also have access to. Finally, we also emphasize the fact that what gets you to graduation is project completion. We don't necessarily hone in on the fact that you have to complete every single video, every single quiz, read every single word. It's more so about demonstrating those skills in your project completions. And in that way, it's a very self-paced and non-linear learning experience. So knowing that you can walk away with these skills and then you actually do have a portfolio of projects under your belt is really what we emphasize, and that's what will get you to graduation. So now that I've given you a little bit of background about what our learning methodology is and what a nano degree is comprised of, I'm going to hand it off to Sid, who again is our solutions architect and who really knows the ins and outs of all of our nano degrees, and he'll give you an outline of what he's tailored directly for the Air Force. So Sid, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome, thank you, Callie. So first things first, now you know what a nano degree is. I want to introduce the concept of a learning path and how it's different, because this is what you'll see on the landing page I will share out after this. So essentially a learning path is a sequence or a series of nano degree programs that build on one another. And the end goal is to achieve a particular business outcome or come up with some end goal. So if you want to become a data scientist or a data engineer or a machine learning engineer, there's a pathway to get there. So each learning path will start with a foundation nano degree. There are no prerequisites required to start with that one, and it progressively gets harder as you move down that learning path. One thing we do before we place an individual or let an individual take a nano degree is we administer pre-assessments. Pre-assessments are essentially a 60-minute online multiple choice questionnaire that you fill out, and the outcome of that is a readiness score for each of the nano degrees in a learning path. So we know, are you ready for this nano degree? Yes or no? And if it's yes, you can go ahead and take it. Otherwise, we'll recommend a more foundational nano degree. So we have 6 different learning paths for you guys, and I'll walk through them in the next slide. So they're broken up into 3 big areas. First one is School of Data Science, and we have 2 learning paths. A learning path for data analytics that ends at becoming a data analyst. The second one is a data science learning path, and we'll walk through that in detail in the next slide. Then we have under the School of AI, we have a machine learning engineer learning path. So if your end goal is to become a machine learning engineer, that's a great pathway. And then the one below that is a generic AI learning path that lets you become an expert in computer vision or natural language processing or deep reinforcement learning. And the bottom part is a School of Programming and Development, as well as design. So if you want to become a UX designer or front-end developer, full stack developer, the software development learning path helps with that. And then we have a cloud computing learning path if you want to become an AWS architect, AWS developer, or AWS DevOps engineer. So how does a learning path look? If you go to the next slide, Callie. So this is an example of a learning path. This is a data science learning path, and we have 5 more of these that you can see on the landing page. So each box here is a nano degree program. So the leftmost block is the foundational one, programming for data science, and this is offered with Python on R. Following that, data analyst is a good logical next step. And then from there, you can sort of spin off into the data scientist track or a data engineer track. So take the introduction to machine learning and then a data scientist nano degree program, or take a data engineer and data streaming. So once you guys choose the path you're interested in, we'll send out assessment links and you'll get assessed on this learning path and you'll get a readiness score for each nano degree. So we'll know exactly where to place you and if you're ready to take that nano degree or not. Next slide. So pre-assessment, just one slide about it. As I mentioned, it's online, about 60 minutes, all multiple choice. And the output would be a readiness score. As you see in that diagram on the left, it'll sort of tell you, are you ready or not ready for a program? So what exactly is a nano degree and how does it look? So let's take the data scientist nano degree as an example. This one takes about 4 months to complete if you put in about 10 hours a week. And this is built in collaboration with Figure 8, Starbucks, Kaggle, IBM Watson, so leading companies that work on data science problems. So this timeline sort of represents what you need to do in order to finish this nanodegree program. So as Callie mentioned, each nanodegree is broken up into modules or courses, and after each module or course, there's a hands-on project you must submit, as demonstrated there, project 1, project 2, project 3, and project 4. The build-up to that project requires you to watch videos, quizzes, read text, do programming exercises, but the biggest value add is those projects, and I'll walk you through an example of the project. So for the data scientist nanodegree program, there are 4 projects. You have 20 days to walk through or go through all the content before you do project 1, about 3 weeks, and then 34 days, and 35 days. What you learn in this program, the first 3 weeks is just an introduction to data science. What is data science? How is it used in industry, and why you need that role? And your project there is you write a data science blog post, so you sort of understand what data science is. The second part of the nanodegree is mainly focused on the software engineering skills and the data engineering skills for data scientists. And I'll walk you through that project in detail in the next slide. The third part of the course is mainly focused on machine learning, statistics, and recommendation engines. So over here, you'll actually build a recommendation engine based on user behavior and social network data with IBM tools. So you really understand the intricacies of how you work with that to build and solve a data science problem. And the last part is the capstone project. Here we allow the learners to sort of pick their own problem statement, their own data sets, and come up with solutions of their own. We believe that giving this freedom allows them to think more holistically on data science and sort of solve problems what they think data science will help with. So example project, go to the next slide, Kelly. So in the data science nanodegree, the second project requires you to build a disaster response web application. So you sort of build this from scratch. And we believe if you can build a fully functioning application using data science tools, you're competent enough to go ahead and be a data scientist. So this project, the context around this project is during a disaster, there are a lot of social media messages. We want you to now automatically sort of build a classification model or do sentiment analysis on these messages, which will allow people to better improve allocation of resources based on the messages. So the first thing you'll probably do is create an ETL pipeline that will accept all of these messages, transform it, and process them. So you have a data set to work on. Then you'll build and train a classifier or classification algorithm using machine learning pipeline that can classify messages to sort of make sure that you're actually classifying it to the right emotion or sentiment. And then you'll put this all together by creating a fully functioning web application using Python Flask that works with the ETL pipeline as well as a machine learning pipeline. So the end goal is sort of that GIF on the side where you can type in a message. For example, you can put weather storm and you hit classify message, and you'll understand that you need evacuation or you need firemen or you need ambulance. So based on that message, you can actually start classification of resources and make it easier for people to sort of get help in these times. So that's the example project in the data science nanodegree. And all projects follow the similar level of difficulty. And once you submit this to an actual project reviewer who will go through your code line by line, grade you against a rubric, and you'll get personalized feedback based on your project submission. So that's what I have for the nanodegree. I'll hand it back to Callie, who'll walk you through next steps.
Great. Thanks, Sid. Great. So what you can expect from here is Lieutenant Cleveland will be sending out an email with what Sid has actually referenced a few times, is what we're calling a microsite. It outlines all of the available learning paths that Sid has gone over, and you can look into the various syllabi and the prerequisites, and all that information is available to you. From there, you should fill out the form and basically demonstrate your interest. It'll ask you for your name, what organization you're coming from, which learning path and nanodegree you're interested in, and acknowledge that you are ready to take on this time commitment and that your supervisor is looped into your decision. From there, you'll get an email with a list of assessment links. So something to be aware of is depending on which learning path you are applying for, make sure you choose the correct assessment. And we'd like to have you to have that done a week from today. And from there, we'll link up as a team with the Digital University to assign which nanodegrees are going to be the most appropriate for the learners who will be entering the program. If you don't get into this first cohort of learners, Digital University will place you on the waiting list and will try to get you into those seats down the line. So that's what the timeline looks like. You'll hear back from Digital University likely by the 12th of June on Friday. And then after that, there will be a formal kickoff with all the learners involved. So more information to come depending on who will be entering the program. So with that, that's really all that we have for you guys. I see that there's some activity in the chat room. So if it's okay with everyone, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and we can start reading through the questions. Let's see. All right, so the first question is, given the time commitment, what's the incentive for airmen to be a part of this? Lieutenant Cleveland, I think I'll hand that one off to you.
Absolutely. All right, so I apologize. Sounds like my daughter is dragging some toys downstairs. So I won't get into specific numbers. You can go onto Udacity site and look for yourself. What I will say is we're offering very, very valuable training at no cost to you. So really, that's the incentive. You're getting world-class training for absolutely free. And no matter whether you stay in the Air Force or you separate, you have that. You always have that on your resume that, hey, you completed a very difficult training path and an degree. That's not something that a whole lot of people can say. So that's the incentive. Very difficult training, very valuable at no cost to you.
Yeah, LT, I'll jump on that one. So this is Guido from Bespin, one of the DU founders. So we're trying to change the training construct through the Air Force from that stodgy old, 5-year-old at the earliest kind of capability to what industry is doing. And so that's the whole effort here and the reason why we're pursuing this, because industry has been doing this right for a while. Let's bring that in, those Silicon Valley tips and techniques to get you guys at the level of your peers that are over in the Valley.
I think another incentive to call out, we do have a little nanodegree badge that you can put on your LinkedIn profiles, and it is something that's recognized on a wider scale as well. So I thought that I'd put that out there too. The next point here is acquiring nanodegrees and certifications in languages and software development fields that an individual is proficient in. Sid, feel free to jump in here, but I will say that all of our nanodegrees are meant to be tool agnostic. So you're taking the techniques and the concepts, whether it's in Python or R, if that's what or Azure or AWS, you're still able to take the concepts that you're learning in the classroom and apply it in various platforms or environments that you're working in. Sid, am I missing anything there, or do you think I got the point?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tool agnostic. The projects will depend on a few tools. We try to partner with, make sure it's industry leading tools. But really, when you do these projects, you really understand the concepts and the techniques more than the tool. So it is transferable to whatever tool choice you want to end up using.
Great. Looks like the next comment is just about showing interest, which is really great to see. Okay. Okay, so the next question is about an individual who is reclassifying into 15A operations research analyst. This career field has a specific education requirement where, for example, data science master's degrees count, but software engineering master's will not. Are there any plans to integrate these nanodegrees with the AFPC's educational requirements? I'll hand that off to the Air Force team.
Yep. So we're working with the cyber functionals to start with and then branching out from there. So we're already up with 3D and 17D. It's a crawl, walk, run approach. As we kind of do that initial bit, we'll start to engage. We're also engaged with A1 to get them into all of our manpower systems. So like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're working to work through those efforts and meet those demands.
Great. And I see that Colt Whittle asked about the contract being only for the nano degrees that were talked about today. The answer is that Alize, who is also from the Udacity team, she outlined that you do have access to all the different nano degrees. We just decided to hone in on this one particular data science learning path in the data science nano degree in particular. But I actually believe Lieutenant Cleveland posted the link to the microsite in the chat as well, so you guys can take a look at the specific learning paths there. But if you take a look on our website, you can also flag any other courses that might be of interest to you. I would take that directly to the digital university team so we can incorporate that into our curriculum. The next question is, would the Java developer track by chance be available by the time we're to start?
I can speak to that, yeah. So the Java web developer is scheduled to launch end of June. So it's a little later than we start. That being said, if that is of interest to you, please note that, and we can definitely keep that. You can use that as a second nano degree in the learning path. We can still send out the assessment, and we'll see what the readiness score is, and we can use that as the next nano degree in the learning path as well.
Hey guys, I want to reiterate real quick. I'm looking through a lot of these questions, and I just wanted to reiterate, this is a Udacity call for Digital U. If there's a lot of questions in Digital U, I think we may do an AMA via LinkedIn with some of our other efforts. So hit Lieutenant Cleveland up or myself if you need to. We want to try to focus these as much on the Udacity team while they're here and using their expertise.
Thanks so much. These questions are definitely in line with the stuff that we can answer though, but I definitely appreciate that. So the next question is about using your government issued email for registration. I believe we do direct you all to use that in when signing up and taking the assessment. So I'm going to head and give the affirmative yes. I see Guido nodding his head as well.
Yeah, I believe, Armando, I believe I had that conversation with Kyle. If you don't have one, and he can vouch for you, just use what you have. If you do have a .mail, please use that.
Sid, I'm probably going to pass the next one to you, but the next one is about, for the UX Nano degree, do you use major tools such as Adobe Creative Suite, including Adobe XD, and or Figma, Sketch, etc.? If tools are used, does the Nano degree cover the cost of that, or do you have to bring your own?
So the UX Nano degree, the tools we use for that, or we use Google Suite, all the web platform of Google Suite. We do use Figma, we use Miro, Zeppelin, and a bunch of other tools. You can see the syllabus on the microsite. That being said, the tools is secondary to what we want to learn. That program is mainly focused on sort of human-centered design. How do you build for humans? There's high fidelity prototyping, low fidelity prototyping, and we do use Figma though as the main tool of choice in that nano degree program. The second part of the question, whatever tool is required, nano degrees will come with licenses for that, so the cost will not need to be covered by the Air Force. Udacity will provide that.
The next question is, when does the first round of classes start? We're aiming to have the first cohort start the week of the 15th in June. So you'll hear back by the end, I believe I mentioned on June 12th of which nano degree and if you will be included in the first cohort. So keep an eye out for an email coming from Digital U after you submit your interest and complete the assessment for us. And there are no more questions in the chat, but we are available to answer any other questions that you might have, so feel free to keep them coming. All right, well, good. It sounds like you and I explained ourselves pretty well then. If you have any other questions, I'm sure the Digital U team will be able to answer them. And as I mentioned, we'll have this recording sent out as well. And it looks like Colt is really enjoying the UX designer and nano degree as well, so that's good to hear. But great. So I'll go ahead and let you guys have a half an hour of your day back, and look forward to working with you all. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.